Hola community! Once again we are here together for another episode of Blender Today live, streaming from sunny Amsterdam. We have announcements this week, only one though. The LTS release, Blender 2.93 LTS, is getting its second fix or corrective release. So stay tuned on Wednesday on all social media and on Blender.org, and on if you already have Steam or Windows Store or Snap on Linux, it should update automatically. So if Blender 2.93 is not being stable for you for some reason, please, step one, first, report the issue. Step two, download the more updated and fixed release. Actually, it's been a few months already since it came out, and only 2 fixed releases, so it seems stable-ish enough. Okay, how's everybody in the chat? Yes, eat, sleep, blend, repeat. Eat, sleep, blend, repeat. This is another t-shirt that it was in the store some time ago and hasn't been there for a while. So if you want it back, give it a thumbs up, leave a comment or something, and we can make it happen again. Maybe not in pink. I think the pink color wasn't very popular. So maybe something a bit more wearable in other situations, unless you want to be. We made it pink because we made it for SIGGRAPH, you know, and like big convention center, you want people to see, hey, there's the Blender people. So we were all wearing, there was the pink version, the orange, and the blue, I believe. So yeah, it was a way to call attention. And also we were giving some of these t-shirts away for free at the SIGGRAPH. So we want people to, like, hey, you get it for free, but with one condition: you have to wear it now, here in the spot. So yeah. Okay, that's all for the announcements in terms of Blender itself. I think we have nothing too big. Sorry about the blowing up here. It's just that this time of the year it's impossible to get it right all the time. Okay, time to see some of the goodies in Blender. If you have any questions, please drop by Blender.community. Here in the website, thanks to Sansuls for making the thread. We're going to be reading the questions towards the end of the show. Actually halfway, because there's not an insane amount of features this week. Actually, it's been pretty quiet. I know the team for geometry nodes, for example, they are mainly Jack has been working on prototypes. There are a few ways of how geometry nodes could move forward, and there are 2 prototypes in mind, 2 ways of working, and he's working on prototype, like making a quick version of how it feels. You know, sometimes on paper something can look fine, or even a mock-up, but until you try it and test it and do something complex with it, then then it's gonna be then it's gonna be the good one to keep. I have a chat here, by the way. I'm reading you guys here. I need a wider screen, otherwise I cannot fit the 1080p and you guys at the same time. Okay, let's start with I have some UI, some performance. This one, let's start with performance. There has been mainly a regression, a fixed regression on making loading blend files faster. It wasn't super fast, and actually I think there is a report from 2.93 compared to master that is actually slower in some cases, some extreme cases. It was apparently reported to 2.93. It was 25 seconds to load a file and then 50. Now this has been fixed, so if you had issues with that, go get the latest fixed version, because now it should be about 4 times faster in linked data when loading linked data, and twice as fast for the whole blend file. So back to normal file. But it's strange though that in production files from sprites from the Open Movie project that is happening right now at the studio, at the Blender Animation Studio, this hasn't popped up. I wonder what people are doing differently than we do at the studio. Okay, so the topic of this week, it's about UI fixes, and there is a number this week. It's actually I have a section for geometry nodes with one feature, but actually it's a UI feature. So let's go through them. My favorite this week, I have this one by Harley. He made it so it's actually a fix, but he made it so ever run into this when you want to load a font, and Blender very nicely tells you the actual file of the font, then the file of the, usually when you download a font, sometimes it's not very well named. So who is at fault here? Is the fault name or the file name? Well, fonts are special because they, even though if the file can be 123.ttf, inside there is a name for that font, right? You specify it. The author specifies it. So now Blender is smart enough, at least on Windows. I don't know if this has been tested elsewhere, but these, because I see here in the path that it's tested on Windows, please report if you have this on Mac or Linux, if it's working. But now it's going to show the actual name, and that's super nice. It has been bothering me for so long. Also, it should also show in the actual data block. So when you load it, it should name the data block properly. I don't know if it's part of this patch or if it's an upcoming patch, but yeah, long awaited improvements here. The other fix, some of them are fixes, some of them are actually things that looked bad in Blender in the past. This one is a fix by Richard Antalik. He's working on the video sequence editor, and he's like main developer in the sequencer editor nowadays. And you also maybe ran into this in the past. This very readable, I don't know if you get to see, the salad of numbers. Yeah, very nice Blender. I can read it just fine. Not anymore. This has been fixed now. It's gonna be responsive. So when you are zoomed out, you're not gonna see the numbers that don't that are not needed. There's two fixes in this patch actually. The first one is the one about not overlapping. So when there's no more room, don't overlap. Just show whatever you can. And the other fix that is not shown in this image is that when you're zoomed out and you are showing the SMTP, the minutes, the time code with like hours, minutes, seconds, milliseconds, having the +00 here for milliseconds, that's not really for frames. That's really not super necessary. Because it's always going to be 0 unless you are zoomed in. That's when you care about those numbers. When you're zoomed out, you don't. So it's good to get rid of them, and that is part of the second patch. So now, unless you're zoomed in, you're not going to see those numbers. You're going to see it in the current frame though, but not in the list. And actually, I'm surprised that a lot of people don't know that in the user preferences you have the here. Let's go to the user pref. That in the user preferences under interface, is it interface? I wish we had search for this. The editing, Okay, well, now I have to look for it. But in the sequencer settings, you have the option to show the full time or not. I'm scanning here through while doing the live stream, so maybe it's not a great idea. Viewport not. Lights not. Editing. Maybe it's in editing. Miscellaneous, no. I wish we had search. But it's the the setting that allows you to see the full time or some of the time in here. I saw it the other day. maybe I'm missing it. If you see it, point it out to me. Okay, so time to I can get used to the faster way to get preferences. Oh, did you know I that's the only way I access preferences. I do F4 and then especially because F4 is easy to reach, so I just do F4 and then P, or go here, go to the bottom. If you're with the keyboard, it's even faster because you can just with the mouse it's easy, or with the keyboard you just go up one and then enter. So yeah, pretty handy. Okay, next improvement is a tiny one, but when you save your preferences, speaking of preferences, now when you save them, there is a it's gonna tell you that it saved the preferences. I never noticed that when saving preferences, Blender wouldn't tell you anywhere. Like if you go to save preferences, now when you save, it tells you here preferences save. I noticed now that when using Windows, that because Windows doesn't come with the system console open by default, then you wouldn't know if it was saved or not, if it failed. So also when it can't save the preferences, it's also gonna tell you like, hey, can't save right now. So so yeah, now this happens. But if you're a Windows user, I would recommend to open the terminal. Like, it's super handy, it has a lot of super useful information. When you're rendering, it tells you the current frame, where it saved it, how long it's taking, what part of the... I'm gonna crash when just trying to close. Come on. Okay, well, such is life. Next, data block preview. The data block saving for assets, for creating assets, now is gonna take the current frame as the reference. It used to be hard-coded to 1. So sometimes maybe if you had a shape key and it was like some time in the, like if your shape key changed the object a lot and you save an asset, it will save it with the first frame. So it would have looked completely different. Not anymore. So, okay. The next improvement is about, well, this is more like a back end, but I like to mention it because it shows progress in the asset browser. There was a major issue with the asset browser, was that it will always, all the asset view templates will show the same library. Showing the same library will show the same assets all the time. And in the future, we want to be a bit more flexible with how assets are shown, and they're not going to be locked to one category or one section. They can be in multiple places. Remember the asset. If you want to learn more about it in the code blog, you're going to find the asset workshop outcomes, and one of them is the introduction of catalogs. There's the catalogs that you build and the catalogs based on a folder structure. So yeah. Okay. Next improvement. Okay, this is an actual new, well, let's mention a few more user interface. Yes, I'm gonna say the one feature for later. Here, this one is a user interface / UX in geometry nodes. Now when you add a node, like attribute math, it's gonna be named a bit more sensitive. So if you add an attribute math node and name it like add, now it's gonna say add. It was the case already for some other types, but not for attribute vector math or math. So now it's gonna tell you, okay, vector add or add. And you can tell its attribute by the colors. So when you actually work on a more collapsed version of the nodes, is so much better, because it used to say attribute math, and sometimes it doesn't even fit in the node itself. So it's good to have the entire some more room for activities here. And once we maybe redesign these nodes, maybe we can have them a bit more, have the color a bit brighter, because the color for attributes right now, I think it's a bit too dark, but we cannot make it so much brighter because there's a limit, because of the text is on top of the color. So otherwise it becomes unreadable. But we are working on it. I'm working on it. But doing some UI tweaks also. You may have noticed a little spoiler alerts here and there. Okay, so let's continue with the more user interface, but in this case it's I didn't do the pipe video sequence editor, this one in particular. So the grid line drawing has been tweaked, has been improved, I would say, because it was a bit unreadable. It was like it had too many lines, and also was brighter. Here it's very dark, very hard to see. But yeah, it was unreadable in most cases. It's really hard to show here also without the zooming. But it's an improvement basically. Also, it was internally it had its own way of drawing, but now it's following the same as the other editors. So it's not its own unicorn anymore. Now it actually uses the rest of Blender. And the with one change though is that using 3 times the spacing to not make it too fine. But let us know if it's working well for you or not. One change in the video sequence editor, also related to the user interface, which I think improves the function, the overall experience. Because, for example, I noticed, like, well, there is so long story short, there are some improvements coming to the way let's see. So there are some improvements coming to the override. So when you drag a strip on top of another strip, the way it overrides. So so far in the sequencer, when you drag a strip on top of another one, it would always it always puts it to the sides, right? It becomes red and then it pushes to the sides. There's a new feature coming. It's not there yet, but it's there is a patch that is being actively developed that would allow you to override. So in a way, you just plonk your strip and it should either cut the strip underneath or override it completely. This one, the override is very interesting, but it's very useful. But I noticed that when you dragged a strip on top of another one, then you wouldn't see what was going on. So now I made a little trick that now the strips becomes transparent, like slightly transparent, so you can actually see underneath. So when you drag it, if it's on top of another strip, so if it's overlapping, then it becomes transparent. Very subtle effect. I think it helps. The red outline, that was already there in Blender, and I think we have to tweak that because the red color now, it doesn't say much. I think the red maybe should be, the bottom should be red because it's gonna be overlapped. So maybe that section could become red-ish or like stripe to indicate that it's gonna be cropped, but not the one on top. But yeah, a lot of design tweaks to do over there. The next improvement is it's a change, not improvement. But now by default in Blender, see if I have another more interesting edit. I do here or not. Oh yeah, I have some. The snapping is now off by default. Snapping, as you can see here, it's off by default because the rest of Blender has it off by default. When you open the any animation editor or the 3D view or the node editor or anywhere, it's snapping is off until it was added here in the sequencer and it was on by default, so it's not consistent. To better be consistent, it's gonna be off by default now, unless you press Control, and then Control snaps it again to whatever, to the current settings that you have set here. This still works, and you can activate it by pressing Control or always turning on with Shift Tab. Okay, next. And okay, this one is more like a shout out to, well, first to Folk for working on it. He added tooltips for the operators, for the add effects strips operator. This it's not gonna change your life. It's gonna make it easier because it's basically adding a bunch of description text to tools that, yeah, didn't exist before. So I wanted to do a shout out here first, thanks to Folk, but also if you want to get into development, for example, but you think you're not so ready for the tough stuff, this is maybe a good exercise. Try to find a operator, in this case, for example, the add effect, that it was missing some tooltips. With just a little bit of code, usually it's the conventions for doing this is similar in other operators. So usually there is like an exec for an operator, but you can also set a description. Something as small like this, like the get description operator, it's super handy to have. Not only for users, but also developers to learn. So if you see something like that, maybe it's a good way to get you started in Blender. Okay, let's switch quickly into one feature that was added this week to LINEART. So, oh, I thought this was Blender. It was actually the browser. The LINEART has a new option, camera overscan. So this feature is already on Eevee, for example. Now it's available for LINEART because, as you know, LINEART only creates edges from the camera view, and it's limited to the camera frustrum. I love that word. Camera frustrum. This thing, viewing frustum, not frustrum. Yeah, so basically what you see, the field of view. The LINEART, because it would end here, sometimes you could have artifacts, you know, at the end of the edge. It would be like maybe not perfectly ending, so you could have, especially if you have screen space effects, it could lead some issues. I don't know anymore. Now there is an overscan feature that allows you to extend and calculate the LINEART a bit around the extended from the camera. Okay, I think we are ready with that. Geometry nodes, LINEART, sections. I think so, yeah. Let's go to the potpourri. It's a little bit of everything. Potpourri is when I sometimes are just like PSAs, like public service announcements, or smaller features that don't fit elsewhere in Blender, Blender.Today at least. This one is more like a public service announcement because the Z pass, when you render, you know, you have a bunch of render passes on by default. One of them was the Z pass, the depth. That was, I think, legacy, as we can see here, Breck mentioning it. It's all gonna be off by default, saving a bit of render time and memory. Because if you don't need it, then you wouldn't have it. So the public service announcements here is that you if you rely on this being on all the time, not anymore. Now you should remember that it's gonna be, you have to turn it on manually. If you never used it, enjoy faster and less memory hungry renders. Okay, the next one is actually a big one. It's the Google Summer of Code. It's the first Google Summer of Code project that makes it to master so far, at least this part. It's regression testing. So for the end user, for you, it's not like a new feature, but it is in a way, because these are regression tests. These are some scripts that developers run and make sure that geometry nodes, for example, in this case, work properly. Sometimes when you touch one node, it can break another one, or if you touch one little line of code somewhere in Blender, then it can ripple to other parts. This prevents it because this is automated. Once it runs, it makes sure like, okay, I expect this geometry node to have 100 vertices after this operation. And if something changes, this alarm goes off and the developers can go and fix it before it even reaches users. So in a way, it's super handy. In many ways, it's super handy. So thank you, Kara Himenshi, for working on this. Super neat, and congratulations on the Google Summer of Code. Okay, now this is more another PSA for people that build Blender. If you build Blender, make sure you update the libraries, because LLVM has been updated to 12 and the minimal is now 11.0. Then OpenImage.io has been upped. Here it says 1.1.15.1, but actually if you look at the code, at the commit, it's the version maximum is 2.3, version short 2.2, and version 2.2.1. So maybe it was a typo. So yeah, this is, make sure you upgrade the libraries. Also, open shading language has been upgraded to well, we can just look at the code. 1.11.14.1. Open Image Denoiser, the friend of many people, the best friend of many people. Open Image Denoise has been upgraded from 1.4 to 1.4.1, and ISP-C to 1.16 from 1.14. Linux users, you may want to keep an eye if you're getting errors with EGL when you're compiling. Make sure you check out this. All the links are in the description, by the way, to all that I'm showing right here. And that is all about this public service announcement. There is one. Before I jump into what's new in Cycles X, this is just nostalgia. Maybe people, if you're new to the show or Blender in general, you're not gonna care. But I just saw this commit and something happened inside my heart. There were many view layer settings that were still around in the code for Blender internal, the default renderer in Blender 2.79 and before. It's not gonna change anything for you. It's just you know, when you look at the code, what happened, it's yeah, you remember, it's like oh, Z-transp, there was a setting called Z-transp, and the halo was there, and edges. Halo was a way to render, yeah, halo lights. It was like a card attached to the camera. They were super handy. All Z, it's, yeah, if you don't if you didn't use Blender internal, you're not gonna recognize this, but if you did, you're gonna have a little tear. Or I did. I don't know why I get so sentimental about a render engine. Anyway, let's go, let's move. Cycles X in the future. We go from the old engine to a new engine. So Cycles X is the project that is bringing Cycles to the next level. It's gonna come hopefully as part of Blender 3.0. So it's being actively developed. It's still on a branch, so it's not part of master. Everything that I mentioned today is in a master branch. It's in the Blender that you download from builder.blender.org. What I'm talking about now is Cycles X. It's in a branch, but it's just as exciting. And because Cycles X, we know it's gonna be in 3.0, there's no doubt about it, or 3.1, whatever, but it's gonna be in Blender, so it's a branch that it's worth mentioning. Look at this. Look at the improvements on in here. Thanks to Sergey, he added. Sorry. He added support. I got so excited. I think I'm not gonna touch it because if people with headphones will kill me. I got so excited because look at the commit. Support open image denoiser with guiding path pre-filtering. So you can find here some renders, examples. I don't know if it's gonna be shown in the live stream, but again, the links is in the description. Here, open image denoise. Well, first, let's see how it would look with NLM, with the internal one. So, okay. It's a bit noisy, but that's the point, the denoiser. Then next, you go to the result in, okay, so now we can compare. This is open image denoiser, the old one. So you can see the bump in this area, in the couches, and the carpet is a bit lost. What if we load the new one? So this is the old open image denoise, this is the new, old, new, old, new. I hope you get to see the difference, but yeah, it's just insane. And then the last one, it's even harder to see in the live stream. It's the new one with the pre-filtering option. It's very subtle to see in the live stream, but you can see it. I think you can see it even better here in this little cube. Once you have textures and so on, it's harder to tell. Here in this area, new, old, new, old. Well, actually, this is with filter, this is without. Very subtle. You only see it in some cases, but look at the excitement of people here. Okay, next. Let's go into more improvements in Cycles X. This one, missing pre-filtering execute. Yeah, by the way, this is on by default, but if you know that your render is gonna be noise free, then you should disable it on the pass. It's actually I forgot to mention that, is that it's per viewport or rendering. In the viewport, you don't really want this. It's a bit expensive, a bit. It's like 0. something seconds, but it's a bit expensive. So in the viewport, it's disabled, but in the render, it's enabled. It does not coming for free, Sergey says. So yeah, we want it to be interactive as possible. If you know that the render is going to be noise free, then you can disable it manually to save some render time and some memory mayhaps. But yeah, for example, here in this test on an i9, it's taking 0.5 seconds per pass. So yeah, careful with great power. Okay, the next improvement is the CUDA has been upgraded to 11.4. So if you're compiling this, keep that in mind. And optics has been updated to 7.3. Actually, it was some time ago, but apparently a merge happened that brought it back to 7.1. Now it's back to 7.3. So upgrade your libraries if you can, if you want, if you feel like. You know what? I feel like going into the questions mode. Let's see how many questions we have. We have plenty of time today. It's like 15 minutes. So I'm gonna relax. I'm gonna have a mate. I'm gonna look at the chat. How is everybody doing in the chat? I hope you didn't smashed your ear holes by hitting the microphone. Did Pablo just say mayhaps? I did. I love that word. It's funny when someone that doesn't know how to speak English like me says words that are not so usual, I guess. When vacations, I'm going on vacation in the all December, so as usual. I mean, if I can enter Argentina, otherwise, I don't know. But I'm not going on holidays during summer, which I should though, because last year I didn't go. Okay, enough blah blah blah. Let's go to the questions. This was me having some time to let you ask questions. I'm gonna load the chat again. Here, the window. Flip into my evil side, my answering side, and let's go through the questions. There's 15 comments. Maybe we can manage to answer or try to answer them all. Okay, first one. It's hey Pablo, how are you? I'm doing great. Thank you. Gabriel, is there any estimated release date for the Sprite Fright? And will there be any chance that thumbnails will be implemented in right-click select? Okay, first one, is there any estimated release date? Well, the team, because Sprite Fright, if you're not aware of, it's the new open movie project that the team is working on at the Blender Animation Studio, the next big thing. Which, actually, I should have mentioned this announcement. The weeklies, so the meetings that the people at the studio have are now public for everyone. It's not subscriber only, it's on the YouTube channel for everybody. And you can see a movie in the making. Okay, maybe there will be some spoiler alert here, but I try... maybe, okay, this is at the very beginning, I think. Yes. So you can see the animators doing, you know, showing like what they've worked on, and you can see the tools that they use, and you can, yeah, you can, okay, here I'm showing the nice parts where there's no too much spoilers. So this is awesome. You should check it out. Follow the Blender Studio YouTube channel. Or go to cloud.blender.org to learn more and find the files. Actually, this weekend actually, Francesco published this blog post by Christian on how Simon Thomas made the effects for hairspray in geometry nodes. Super exciting.
With another production lesson. So
production lessons. This is how we call the, well, production lessons. The things we learned during the making of an open movie and how we released it. It's super cool, actually. This is a 7-minute snippet, but you can watch the full lesson if you have access to Blender Cloud. And remember that Blender Cloud makes helping Blender move forward and work with super complex files and makes people happy. And you get a full open movie file set and tutorials with it. The next question, the next question was, will there be any chance that thumbnails will be re-implemented in right-click select? We've seen a lot of requests about that, about having thumbnails here again. And yeah, they could be back. I mean, everything is possible, right? We made this website from scratch. We can do whatever we want. It's not a limitation of the software itself. It's that, I don't know, sometimes I feel like the people are fighting. It's, you know, on YouTube, when the thumbnails become so extreme that people are just using the brightest colors and the silliest faces, clickbaiting thumbnails, that it's a bit too much. We don't want that to happen in right-click select, you know? I'm afraid, we are afraid with Francesco that if we have thumbnails here on the side, that's gonna happen. You know, people are gonna just use whatever brightest colors they can find to show, to be a bit more, to call your attention, basically. Here we have Mr. Cerrito saying the site looks boring without thumbnails. I know, but boring is sometimes synonym of readable. I don't know. What you guys think? please let us know. But people do not do such things on right click select. Yeah, you would be surprised. There are some people that just want to call attention, but yeah, there are some like this one. This is super nice with a video, with a file, a GIF file. Some of the proposals are actually very well, explained and detailed, and some of them are like this. Actually, if you see this in the thumbnail, it will be super nice, because then it's like, oh, okay. But it's not always the case. I don't know. Let us know. Leave a comment or reply to the comment here, and yeah, let us know. We will think about it. Maybe it can be an option. Okay, next. Hi, Pablo. Do you know why developers still avoid to add vertex indices to geometry nodes? It is essential thing. I will still fake it. What do you mean, vertex indices? Well, the vertex index changes. It should be accessible. Like, you mean like an attribute? Or you mean expose it? Or you mean as a node? Need more context. You can always go to everything nodes in Blender.Chat, in the Blender chat community chat system, to discuss these kind of things. It's probably easier because they're gonna give you the context and you can show a picture or examples. I think it's better if we ask that there. Hey Pablo, any news on the asset pipeline project? There should have been a second blog post if I remember correctly, but so far no updates as far as I know. Asset pipeline project. The one by Pablo de Barro, you mean? In Code blog? The asset creation pipeline design, or this one? Was it announced that there will be a new blog post? Like, was it a date somewhere? Because there has been many related to asset creation, asset browser, asset workshop. Not sure which one you're talking about, but yeah, I will check maybe if there's one coming. Remember, it's also summer here in the northern hemisphere, so things sometimes take a bit longer. Next question by Nerv2Kia. Hey Pablo, how are you? Just wondering if there is any progress on the horizon about GPU rendering on Mac OS in any way. A hint on where to look for these topics. Progress will be very nice. No, as far as I know, not. But if there is any progress, it will come, I would say, from, like, we will learn in the regular places. The same happened when Apple contributed the M1 improvement. That also happened in the developer.blender.org. But no news as far as I know. Sansul says, hey Pablo, hope you're having a good day. Few questions. Okay. It's been almost 9 years since Blender Studio released a live-action VFX film, Tears of Steel. If I'm not wrong, that movie was the reason why a lot of tools for VFX like tracking, etc. were developed. Please make another live-action VFX short film sooner. Blender has come a long way in terms of rendering and simulations, lighting and everything, and how it would be a golden opportunity for showcasing the insane realism and high-quality render that can be achieved by professional artists. And also it's going to push the development of VFX-related tools, and that's definitely going to sparkle a lot of people's interest to try out Blender. Oops. Move to the other side. Okay. I agree. It's been a long time. The creation of a live-action film, though, it's quite a lot of work and people involved, and you need a crew, and you need a director that really believes in it and wants to push it. So I don't see Blender Studio nowadays like getting out of its way to push for one of those. I but I could be wrong. I mean, maybe if there is a new Ian Newert who directed the first Tears of Steel to say like, I have this amazing script and I want to do it, and then goes and knocks on the Blender studio doors and say, hey, I have this script. I mean, anything can happen, right? If you're really motivated to do it. But at the moment, yeah, I don't see Blender itself going off its way to do something like that. Especially with the focus after we have Sprite Fright. I think the focus will be more on just like Blender itself, improving Blender itself, and preparing, as always, for a feature film. That's the idea. Next. Okay, next question. Also, I think my opinion, control clicking or shift clicking a collection should select the objects in a hierarchy instead of the current method. I think a scroll bar will be really useful addition in the outliner as well when dealing with thousands of objects. What do you mean? There is a scroll bar. It's only shown on mouse over, but there are the team wants to make it so, geez, it takes so long. When you have a long enough, hey, cannot hold C anymore? I used to be able to hold the C key. Okay, so there is a scroll bar. It's just very faint here, or not? Oh, it's not even showing. Wait, what? Outliner? No, it's in the scroll bars. So if I make it like, bam, red? Yeah, it's not showing. That's a bug. Okay, there you go, it's showing. There you go, it shows. I just had the wrong. Which color is it even here? It's item. It is showing there. It's just maybe not really visible, but it should be visible. And there is a patch. The team agrees already that this should be always present. Showing it on mouse over, it could be larger on mouse over, but there should be at least an indicator of where you are in the list, always, at all times. Oh, and the selection, it should select all the objects in the hierarchy. Yes, I also think that. Next question. I know that the physical Blender conference has been cancelled, yes, but will there be a virtual event like VCon 20? If so, can you share some details? No, there is no virtual event planned either. So Blender conference has been cancelled, and even though it was just a virtual event, the one from last year, it still took quite some time to organize and make it nice. So yeah, that's not gonna happen. You know, with the box, sending it everywhere, getting in touch with people, with giving feedback on their videos, and then getting them back and edit it together. So it is a bit of preparation. It's not gonna happen this year though. What I can say though, and I think it has been announced in a way, that this year is super special because of Blender 3. And because of that, we better spend more time working on Blender 3's presentation, but also on the 3.x series. So workshops, having module meetings here in Amsterdam whenever it's possible to fly again. I think for people in Europe, it's now easier to fly. So we can at least get those in the studio for a couple weeks or so to have workshops, to think about, okay, what is the status of this module? Asset browser, video sequencer, sculpting, painting, you name it, for the 3.x series. So what are the plans? And we want to document that. We want to make videos, blog posts, and have those like a tiny code quests if you like it. But yeah, that's the plan, instead of the Blender conference. Next question by Fred says, hey Pablo, did you know that eat, blend, slip, repeat can cause burnout? Especially when you're working in a using company that has absolutely no idea what Blender can do. You get crazy or insane because you're always faster and can't explain them why. Because they don't want to learn Blender and think A is the holy grail. Thank you, and thank you for supporting the Blender code quest. I saw your badge there. The 2.8 code quest. Yes, eat, blend, slip, repeat. Eat, sleep, blend, repeat can cause burnout. But only if you allow it. If you eat well and sleep enough, it should be okay. But you should remember to sleep. Sleep is underrated. Okay, hi Pablo, I missed some feature. Please consider adding separate by loose parts option in object mode, because there's no need to go into edit mode for that. Well, but you need to know which ones are the loose parts, right? If you like it works on selection. Also separate by loose part option for curves. Yeah, absolutely. This is our feature requests. They could go into right click select, although the proposal wouldn't be so extended because it's I mean, separate by loose part could work, I think, on object level, because it would act in the entire object. Have you tried if it actually works? Like calling it from, I know you need the context. Yeah. And the curves, yeah, absolutely, it should be there. Maybe that's an easy one for a developer to pick up. For a new developer that wants to get involved, look at how it's done in Blender in Mesh and do it for curves. You already have the name of the object, of the operator, you already have the where to put it, and what is expected is basically making a new object based on the loose edges, curves in this case. Okay. I have time. Yeah, I'm just gonna go through all of them. Hello Pablo, how are you? Asking how to composite a video sequencer strip. How to use King or another nodes in compositor on a sequencer strip. You can't do compositing on a sequencer strip. The workflow for how Blender works, it's the sequencer is run at the end of the entire tree, so it can't go back, otherwise it will be a loop. It was proposed in the past, but it's not an easy change to allow that without hacking it too much. I think there was a patch around some time ago like supporting that, but it can be a bit hacky. Okay, next question. I notice I'm falling off the frame here. Next question. J. Anthony says, hey Pablo, I've been wondering, are there any rigging, animation playback, or cache animation playback improvements or implementations planned for 3.0 or the 3.x lifeline? It's a very imperative feature for animators, as playback is not the best for most models. And also, did you get to go ahead from your for your geometry nodes UI rework? It really looks like it should happen. The animation playback, cache animation playback, they are the animation module team. If you have been following the module, what they are doing, it's actually getting, if you go to here to Blender development, other meetings, you can see what they are up to. I think they didn't gather in, is it in other meetings or no? Maybe it's in animation. Here, animation and rigging. Sorry. Here. So you can see actually what they've been discussing and what are the plans at the moment. There is a new meeting upcoming here, animation and rigging. And there are a few short-term goals here. Weight paint overlay. This is an important one. Motion paths. New graph editor, key manipulation operator. So these are the short-term plans, but you can see here everything, like the workboard, the patches. You can ask in the animation module chat channel. You can go to Blender.chat, log in with your Blender ID, and you can talk to the animation module. So it's not only developers, but also artists, animators that are part of the module. And everybody is welcome to join the discussion, especially if you're an animator with experience. That's super welcome. And did I manage to go with the geometry nodes UI? No, I have plans for it though. I've been playing with other things in the UI. You may have seen my Blender looking a bit different. I've done a few tweaks here and there, but I plan to do more. I'm motivated at the moment. The current ones are very, very small, but I'm gonna make a patch for it and proposal. So stay tuned. Terry Rocks doesn't even say hi, but it says check this. Apply HDRI. Yeah, I don't think it's apply. It's a create. It will create new data from it. But yeah, that would be pretty handy. And oh no, gee. Okay, there's so many more. I don't think I'm already 8 minutes late. I don't think I managed to read them all. And also, I think they are now... There must be a bug because it's loading some of the ones that were already loaded. Okay, so I'm gonna refresh the page. And the GPU rendering. No, I think... I'm here. Okay, let's do 3 more. Yes, if I manage to. Hey, San Pablo, since it's a UI episode and you're a bit of UI guy, or are you? I am. What is your professional opinion on how animating which camera is active? It seems like the only thing in Blender that has to use timeline markers, and I feel it's more of a vibe to use keyframes like everything else. Yeah, using markers for setting the current camera, I would say it's a bit of a hack. I agree. It can get messy. It's not even a kind of markers. It's just markers. So there's no way to tell a marker. Well, it has a little icon of a camera, but it can be messy because sometimes you use markers for something else. And having to, like, being forced to use it for camera animation, yeah, I don't think it's ideal. It's a good hack. It was good while it lasted, but I think it was added during an open movie project, also a bit of in a rush. But yeah, it should be better exposed. And I said this a million times already in the show, but I think the cameras should be exposed all the time in a tab like this. Cameras are, I would say, more important than world, and world has its own tab here. So I think the active camera, like a way to list cameras or active cameras, should always be here. And the setting as active maybe could be animated with a simple toggle, like a little animation like this. Decorator, that's the word I'm looking for. Next question, second. Pablo, always enjoy the show. Thank you. So you demoing font tweak and wonder. Why do fonts have slots for regular, bold, etc.? You can load whatever you want in any slots. So seems unneeded. You can load whatever you want in any slots. Well, I'm not a huge fan of how fonts are treated in Blender currently. It's very flexible, the fact that you can specify a different font for each type. So you can set for bold to have one type or for regular to have another type. I think people might be abusing this, and that's the problem when you have features like this, that by now probably a lot of people are hacking this, are using this in a not official way. because you can mark parts of the text as bold, or it should be. It's in edit. Well, I don't know why it's not being saved, this thing, but the fact that you can specify different with the same text data block, but you can specify different types, I don't know, maybe being abused, I'm not sure. However, one thing, what did I do? Blender here. The text object in Blender is really behind, like bold, italic, like the size, you have to dig deep down in one of the menus to change the size of the font. I think it should be up here, like in the top, like other softwares usually, you know, when here underline, it shouldn't be the word shouldn't be duplicated here because it's connected. Then the spacing is also very, like, this could be just little icons in here, like in regular, like in GIMP or Krita or other editing softwares. So yeah, there is a lot of room for improvements for texts. And the last question, otherwise I'm running out of time. Happy Monday. I don't know if the Blender Institute is aware of NVIDIA's physics engine physics. I think they are, the developers, but it went open source a couple of years ago. Can we expect Blender to upgrade to this physics engine for the solvers in geometry nodes? I don't know exactly what are the limitations of this, what are the implications compared to the current physics system, but I'm not qualified to answer that though. What other like who are using this, for example, in the industry, like out there? I mean, I don't doubt that it's amazing, but I wonder which other what is other people other softwares using at the moment. Is anybody else have improved it already, or? Yeah. Okay, last question, otherwise I'm not gonna finish. In Blender 291 and 2.93, which is a FNAF, says the convert command inside the objects menu on the 3D viewport was called convert2. Now in 2.93, an app is called convert. I think this phrase change is not correct, since you have an object selected and what you do is convert to something else. If you read it aloud, it sounds totally off. Mesh convert curve, or curve convert mesh instead. If you read the former phrase, although in the context the phrase still uses the old phrase convert to. I think this change was because the trace image to Chris Pencil was added, but in my opinion this operator should be moved outside of the convert to menu. I think it should be convert to as well. I think it even reads better. It's more like it's actually what it's gonna do. Otherwise, yeah, convert curve, but I have a text mesh or a text object or a mesh object selected. I agree with this, but the trace image being outside, I don't know. It's a conversion. I know it makes a new object, so it's not a conversion actually. Maybe it needs to be outside. Okay, I'm completely out of time here, so let's call it a day, if it's okay. I'm sorry for those who I didn't get to answer their questions, but we do this every week, so save it for next week, unless it gets answered during the week in the chats, in the forums. How's everybody in the chat? I hope you had a good show. I wasn't really checking that much. Sometimes I got a bit distracted. Then there was some spam. I dealt with the spam, I think, but yeah. Intertubes, you know. I hope you had fun. I did have fun. We saw a bunch of new features, hopefully more next week. As I said before, summer is a bit here in the northern hemisphere. It's can make things a bit slower, but because of holidays, but sure, we're gonna be back with more features, and if not, we're gonna just chat, hang out, because that's what we do. Okay, time to call it a day. I will see you again, same week, same day, same time next week for another episode of Blender Today Live. Okay, have fun, eat, sleep, blend, 3 things.